Elon Musk just told his own engineers, something that should worry every other AI lab on the planet. And almost nobody outside XAI is talking about it yet. On July 21st, Musk confirmed that SpaceX's proprietary engineering data, the telemetry, structural modeling, and systems data behind reusable rockets that actually land themselves, is going into training the next Grok model. Not scraped web text, not synthetic chat logs, real, physical world engineering data that no other AI company on Earth has access to. If you think the AGI race is still just about parameter counts, the next few minutes are going to change your mind. Here's the problem with most Grok 5 will be AGI content floating around right now. It's built on vibes, not verification. So I went back through XAI's own release notes, Musk's public statements, and everything Grok 4.5 has already shipped, to figure out exactly what's been committed to here, versus what's just Musk being Musk. And the twist is this: the real story isn't a bigger brain, it's a different diet. This video is about what Grok 5 is actually being built on, what that means if you take it seriously, and the one thing nobody's putting in their thumbnail, that AGI move is a framing choice, and the receipts only support part of it. What Musk actually committed to. Let's start with the part that's real. On July 21st, Musk said publicly that SpaceX's proprietary engineering data will train XAI's next Grok model. That's it. That's the commitment. Not a spec sheet, not a release date, not a benchmark, a data sourcing decision. And on the same day, XAI quietly shipped something else. Configurable reasoning effort added to the Grok 4.5 API, letting developers dial how hard the model thinks per request, alongside a usage pool clarification for Cursor. 2 announcements, same day, and only one of them made headlines. The reasoning effort update matters because it tells you XAI is still actively tuning Grok 4.5, even while talking about what comes after it. This isn't a company that shipped a model and walked away. But the SpaceX data commitment is the one worth sitting with, because it's a genuinely different move than what any other frontier lab has said out loud. OpenAI trains on the open web, licensed publishers, and increasingly synthetic data. Anthropic has talked in the past about curated and constitutional training approaches. Google leans on search, YouTube, and its own internal corpora. None of them have said, on the record, we're feeding a foundation model the internal engineering data of an aerospace company that lands orbital-class rockets on drone ships. That's the actual news. Everything past this point, what it means, whether it gets Grok closer to anything resembling general intelligence, is interpretation. Keep that distinction in your back pocket, because most of what you'll see about this story blurs it on purpose.
Why engineering data isn't chat data. Here's why this is worth caring about, stated plainly. Large language models trained primarily on internet text are extraordinary at pattern matching language, code, and reasoning chains that look like things humans have already written down. What they're historically bad at is grounded, physical, consequence-heavy reasoning. The kind where a wrong answer doesn't just read badly, it means a rocket doesn't come back. SpaceX's engineering data isn't blog posts about rockets. It's the underlying structural, thermal, and systems modeling that has to be internally consistent or the hardware fails. Full stop. Feeding that kind of data into a foundation model is a bet that grounded, failure-intolerant engineering reasoning transfers into better general reasoning elsewhere. Coding, planning, multi-step problem-solving, the stuff AGI conversations actually revolve around. It's a plausible bet. Elon Musk has made versions of this argument before, publicly, about why Tesla's real-world driving data and XAI's model development are more connected than they look on paper. To be clear, a plausible bet is not a proven one. Nobody outside XAI has seen how this data gets used, filtered, or weighted in training, and XAI hasn't published anything resembling a methodology. Compare that to how the other frontier labs talk about their own data strategies. When a company says it trained on curated, high-quality sources, or licensed publisher content, that's a claim about quality control on top of the same broad category of material everyone else is using. Text, largely. When Musk says the training set includes the internal engineering data of a company that lands 200-foot boosters on a floating platform in the ocean, that's a claim about an entirely different category of data existing in the mix at all. You don't have to believe it makes Grok 5 smarter to recognize it's a structurally different pitch than anything OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google DeepMind has put on the record. So here's the fair version of the story. This is a genuinely distinctive data strategy, and it's not obviously wrong. Whether it produces a smarter model is a separate question from whether it's a smart thing to try. Hold on to that distinction, because it's exactly the thing the AGI move framing tries to collapse into one claim. The 6 trillion parameter rumor. Now for the parts that are still rumor, and I want to be upfront about the confidence level on each one. Grok 5's parameter count has been reported anywhere from around 6 trillion up to considerably higher figures, depending on which outlet you read, none of it confirmed by XAI, and the number has moved around enough over the past several months that I'd treat any specific figure as low confidence until XAI actually says something on the record. For comparison, Grok 4.5, the model actually shipped and priced today, runs at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens, scores 64.7% on SWE-Bench Pro, and averages around 15,954 tokens per task. Dramatically leaner than Claude Opus 4.8's roughly 67,000 tokens per task on comparable work. That efficiency gap is real and independently benchmarked. The Grok 5 parameter count is not. Then there's Cursor. Reports from early July pointed to XAI acquiring Cursor for somewhere around $60 billion, with the plan being to fold Cursor's coding data into the next Grok model. Meaning if these reports hold up, Grok 5 isn't just getting SpaceX's engineering data, it's potentially getting a second unusual data source on top of it. Real developer coding agent interactions at scale. Like the SpaceX commitment, this hasn't been confirmed directly by XAI in a model card or an official statement. It's still sourced to reporting, not to the company itself. Medium confidence, worth watching, not worth treating as settled. So the honest picture of Grok 5 right now is 2 confirmed but vague data commitments. SpaceX engineering data and, more speculatively, Cursor coding data, wrapped around a parameter count nobody at XAI has actually said out loud. That's a real strategy. It's not yet a real model. The AGI threshold claim, examined.
This is where I need to apply the brakes.
Because AGI Move is doing a lot of work in how this story is being framed, including in the framing of this very video. Grok 5 does not exist yet. There is no model card, no release date, no independent benchmark run, and no third-party lab, including artificial analysis. The closest thing this space has to a neutral referee has anything to test. Any claim that this data strategy gets XAI meaningfully closer to artificial general intelligence is right now entirely unverifiable, because the thing being described hasn't shipped. To be clear, that doesn't mean the strategy is bad, or that Musk is lying about the data commitment. The SpaceX training data claim itself checks out as a real, dated, on-the-record statement. What it means is that the leap from "we're using unusual training data" to "this is XAI's real AGI move" is a marketing frame, not a technical conclusion. Any company's claim about how close its next model gets to AGI is, by definition, grading its own homework, until an unreleased model ships and gets tested by someone with no stake in the outcome. AGI move is a headline, not a finding. It's also worth asking what AGI would even mean as a testable claim here, since that word gets used loosely enough across this industry to mean almost anything a company wants it to mean in a given quarter. A model that reasons better about physical systems because it saw physical systems data isn't the same claim as a model that can generalize across arbitrary novel tasks the way a human can. The first is a specific, checkable capability improvement. The second is the actual bar AGI is supposed to clear. Nothing published so far tells you which one, if either, Grok 5 is actually reaching for. Fourth, not proven. That's where this actually sits on the confidence ladder right now, and it's worth being blunt about that before the next official Grok update tries to convince you otherwise. What nobody's putting in the thumbnail.
A few things are worth naming directly,
because they don't show up in the excited version of this story. First, XAI has offered zero methodology detail on how SpaceX's engineering data actually gets incorporated, what gets filtered, what gets weighted, whether it's a small fine-tuning slice or a meaningful chunk of pre-training. Without that, training on SpaceX data could mean anything from a minor experimental dataset to a genuine architectural bet, and outsiders currently have no way to tell which. Second, there's an access and oversight question sitting quietly in the background. The US government has already shown this year that it's willing to intervene directly in frontier AI releases. Anthropic's most capable model line was hit with an export control suspension earlier this year, and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 only reached the public after a 30-day government review under a new AI cybersecurity order. XAI training a public-facing model on proprietary aerospace engineering data with obvious national security adjacency, given SpaceX's government contracts, is exactly the kind of scenario regulators have shown interest in scrutinizing elsewhere. That's not a prediction that it happens to Grok 5. It's a pattern worth flagging, because right now nobody's talking about it in the same breath as the AGI hype. Third and simplest, none of this changes anything about the model you can actually use today. Grok 4.5's pricing, benchmarks, and reasoning effort controls are real, tested, and available right now. Everything about Grok 5 is a plan, sourced partly to Musk's own words and partly to reporting nobody at XAI has confirmed. Drop a comment if you'd rather see a full breakdown of what Grok 4.5 can already do with that new reasoning effort control. That's a video built entirely on things that shipped, not things that might.
The verdict. So where does this actually leave things? Technically, the SpaceX data commitment is real, it's distinctive, and it's a legitimately interesting bet on grounded engineering reasoning transferring into general model capability. Nothing about that claim falls apart under scrutiny. Strategically, calling it XAI's real AGI move gets ahead of everything that hasn't happened yet. No model, no benchmark, no independent verification, and a parameter count that's been a moving target for months. Technically, a genuine strategy. Strategically, not yet a result. The story here isn't that Musk is bluffing. It's that the gap between a training data decision and an AGI breakthrough is exactly the gap this channel exists to point at. XAI closed a data sourcing gap. It didn't close the evidence gap. If you want to be the first to know when Grok 5 actually ships, and whether any of this holds up against real benchmarks instead of real estate in a headline, that's what subscribing gets you here. We'll be tracking it the moment XAI says anything official. Until then, drop a comment with what you think an aerospace-trained language model should actually be good at. Because that's a more interesting question than whether it's AGI. And it's one we can actually answer with evidence instead of guesswork.